clear economic benefit from investing in $10 a day childcare. Thanks in part to our investment, 40,000 more women are working in the childcare sector, providing families with much needed care, as well as a second income and operators with skilled workforce. A new study that came out this week by the Center for Future Work estimated that $32 billion in additional GDP in 2024 was generated thanks in part to $10 a day childcare. Affordable childcare isn't just good social policy, it's smart economic policy that has reduced the impacts of inflation and spurred economic growth. One of the things that I heard today from my colleagues is they want to be sure that the federal government is in it for the long run, and we are. Our government sees early learning and childcare as a long-term commitment and will continue to invest in building a system that works for families. That's why we introduced and passed legislation that reinforced this commitment. It's also why we invested an additional $1 billion in Budget 2024 to address the challenge of waitlists. In every community across Canada, we need to build more childcare spots so that every family that wants a spot can find one. And to open more spots and get children off waitlists, we need a well-supported workforce. Early childhood educators are literally the heart of this system, and this system does not exist without them. That's why the draft multilateral early learning and childcare workforce strategy was discussed today, and why it is so important that we continue this work. This strategy will center on the pillars of recruitment, retention, and recognition. We need to attract the best educators to care for our kids and show them that their work is valued. Our government is further supporting this work by investing $10 million to train more early childhood educators and offering student loan forgiveness for early childhood educators who work in rural and remote communities. This will encourage educators to work in smaller communities where they can support the families and children that need childcare close to home. Our progress would not be possible without the strong cooperation of all provincial and territorial partners. So I want to thank them for their outstanding work. While we don't always agree on everything, we do agree that $10 a day childcare is good for kids, good for families, and good for the economy. Every day, I go to work thinking about the parents who have shared stories of how life-changing this program has been for their families. Across the country, parents aren't just saving money. Some are planning to have a second child or starting a family when they didn't think that they could afford it. Others are returning to work because they've found an affordable spot that provided high-quality care. They're dropping their kids off at childcare centers that they know that they can trust, and their children are getting the best possible start in life. The impact that this system is having on Canadians will last for generations to come. Enfin, je tiens à remercier le ministre Lantz et le gouvernement de l'île du Prince-Édouard pour leur travail en tant que coprésident de ce forum fédéral, provincial et territorial au cours des dernières années. This year marks the end of P.E.I.'s tenure as co-chair. However, I'm excited to announce that Manitoba will be assuming the role of co-chair moving forward. And on that note, I will turn it over to Minister Lantz to say a few words. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Minister Sudds. And I just want to thank all the participants here. We have the ministers behind me who were able to attend, but we also had ministers attending virtually, officials here from all of the jurisdictions, and we had very productive discussions about how we arrived at where we are and where we're going in the future. I think there are some questions about how we sustain this system that we've built and how we continue to build our workforce, which is a critical path to expanding this system to families who are still waiting to access affordable, high-quality early learning and childcare. So just very briefly, again, thank you. It's been very instructive for me as a new minister in this role to have all of my colleagues here and to host them and to learn from them and their experience. And then from us, frankly, Prince Edward Island is a leader in this space. We've been working long and hard at creating high quality early learning and childcare spaces in Prince Edward Island. We've got an excellent model. We're pleased at the impact that it has on families here in Prince Edward Island. It's a significant savings, as the minister said, over $4,000 per child now with this system we have in place. We are very proud of the way that we are supporting our workforce with very competitive wage grid, so good compensation, good working conditions, good benefits. It is an attractive sector to work in, and we see that as people are moving toward it. We are grateful for our partnerships in post-secondary education, offering multiple pathways for early childhood educators to enter the sector, both full-time programs and more flexible, accelerated programs, and the Steps to Success program that we heard about yesterday at a panel discussion at Holland College. It was wonderful to hear directly from frontline workers in early childhood education about their experience and their excitement, frankly, about the improvements and the expansion in this sector, the investments we've made, and we could really see the impact it made for the people who work on the front lines and not only the children that they work with. And something stuck with me yesterday at that panel discussion when one of the panelists said that their working conditions are the learning environment of the children. So when we work to improve and elevate the working conditions of early childhood educators, we elevate the learning environment of young children, and that is important. So again, I just want to say thank you to everyone that came and participated. It was very useful, and I'm very happy to pass the baton to Manitoba for our future discussions.
Concludes today's official remarks. We will now open the question period. We'll start with the people in the room, and then we will go to the people joining virtually. Nous allons maintenant commencer la période de questions. Nous allons commencer avec les médias qui sont dans la salle. Ensuite, nous allons se tourner vers ceux qui se sont joints par Zoom. Donc, I will start with Laura, if you have any questions. It's one question and one follow-up. You can just go to the mic right in front.
Maybe if I could just stay here, I'm sure you can hear me.
Yeah.
So if I can just have you just describe.
Interpreters cannot interpret if
Oh.
you're not at the mic.
Sure.
Okay.
Move the mic.
Sorry, my crew is high maintenance here.
All good. We'll make it work.
All right. So I was just looking to understand, what are you hoping to get from P.E.I.'s example?
Out of these meetings this week?
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. Well, first of all, I'll say P.E.I.'s leadership in hosting the meetings this week and over the last few years has really been tremendous. And Minister Lantz and his team have really rolled out the carpet for us here, and it's been wonderful to have some time in Charlottetown together. And As the minister responsible federally for early learning and childcare, I can tell you that we've had a great working relationship with P.E.I. And we've seen some really remarkable progress here on the island, not only meeting space creation targets, getting to $10 a day, but also some really great work on the workforce. And so PEI moving forward with pension and benefits for the ECEs here on the island is a big achievement and a big step forward, because we know that ECEs are the heart of the childcare system here in PEI and across the country. So I think we've had a good opportunity over these last 2 days to be able to share best practices. We had some great discussions around workforce, around quality, around data and reporting, and PEI was quite vocal and instrumental in a lot of those discussions.
Mhm. And just as a follow-up, I did speak to a couple of daycares in PEI today, and I know it's a similar situation across Canada. Many parents are struggling to find a spot. They're unable to return to work. What is your message to parents who are frustrated with unable to find a spot at a center?
Sure. I'll start, and then perhaps I'll ask if Mr. Lantz wants to add anything. But first of all, I'll just say, obviously, my heart goes out to any parent who is struggling to find a childcare spot. It's certainly something that myself and I know the ministers behind me have been working hard on space creation. To date, over these last 3 years, we've seen the provinces and territories be able to create an additional 125,000 new spots across the country. Those are 125,000 kids who didn't have access to care prior to the work that we've been doing together, building this national system. So there is still a tremendous amount of work to do, and that can be said here in PEI and in all provinces and territories. But I think what we've reinforced with our meeting today is our shared commitment to continue working towards creating more spaces and ensuring that families across this country have access to high quality, affordable, and inclusive childcare. And perhaps, Minister Lantz, did you want to add anything?
Sure. Yeah. First, I'd just like to say that, all of us, I think, would say that we value our partnership with the federal government, because without that partnership and the agreements that we have, we wouldn't be able to offer $10 a day childcare. As I alluded to earlier, Prince Edward Island has been working for a long time, at least 15 years, to move towards a publicly managed early learning and childcare model. And we're very proud of the work that we've done on quality and affordability. We're now in a position to begin expanding and offering more spaces in Prince Edward Island. In fact, we are expanding quite rapidly over the last 3 or 4 years, and we do have programs for capital grants and low interest loans that many of our operators are taking advantage of now. We're very focused on expansion. We have our model in place. Expansion is a priority. We have to assist providers in expanding, and we are doing that. And in fact, we have partners in place that are working on expansion that will add hundreds of new spaces to our facilities in Prince Edward Island. So that's a good thing. But expansion is very dependent, as I've also said, on expanding our workforce. And that may be one of the most difficult aspects of this. We have to offer pathways for educators to enter the sector. It's become far more attractive with our wage scale and our benefits and our working conditions. So we're in a position to expand. It will take time. And as Minister Sudds says, my heart does go out to people who are trying to find accessible childcare. But we will continue to do this work, and we hope that to offer many more spaces going forward.
All right, thank you. That wraps up the questions in the room. I will now turn it over to Mila, who will be moderating the questions online.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us online today. Members of the media, if you have a question, you can use the raise your hand function. Les membres des médias qui sont en ligne avec nous aujourd'hui, vous pouvez utiliser la fonction lever la main. Si vous utilisez un téléphone cellulaire, vous pouvez appuyer sur l'étoile 9. If you're using a cell phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. So we do have a question from the Trillium. You can go ahead.
Hi there. Thanks for taking our questions. I was hoping to just ask a bit specifically about Ontario. I'm wondering, Ontario has, taken some steps in terms of its own workforce strategy, like bumping up starting wages and whatnot. Minister, I'm wondering, do you think that there is more that Ontario could be doing, either in terms of the workforce or expansion, just to ensure the sustainability of the CWELC program in the province? And if so, what are some of those steps that you'd like to see?
Excellent. Thank you for the question. Ontario is a key partner, obviously, as we are working to roll out this national early learning and childcare system, and has, of course, signed on to a 5-year agreement, which entails delivering 86,000 new childcare spots for families in Ontario. I am encouraged by some recent decisions around how they are funding childcare operators, and I'm hearing some great feedback, which will provide more certainty for operators moving forward after January 1st. We had discussions today here at this forum collectively around workforce and workforce strategy. I think there is a shared commitment by all ministers around the table to continue to look for best practices and ways that we can ensure that ECEs in Ontario and across the country are well supported, are recognized for the amazing work that they do. Without them, we don't have a childcare system. So I'll continue to work with Ontario as they move forward with any new initiatives to support the workforce and to create new spaces.
Thank you. And just to follow up on that, there's been a lot of calls from advocates in Ontario asking for the province to implement a wage grid. How necessary do you think a wage grid is to the long-term success of the program? And I mean, the province seems open to it, but they'd like more funding from your government. So is that something you'd consider?
Well, I'll start by saying that our 5-year agreement with Ontario is over $10 billion commitment to the families in Ontario to support the creation of additional spaces and high quality early learning and childcare. So we wholeheartedly are there for Ontario moms and dads to ensure they have that care. ECEs deserve a living wage. They deserve to be well compensated, well respected in their profession, and we need them. They're caring for our most prized little people. So I know, of course, Ontario right now has a wage floor. If I look to many of the ministers behind me and those that joined over these last few days, there are some great best practices that I think all of us can learn of how provinces and territories have been able to implement a wage grid, to implement pension and benefits and professional development, and all the things that we know ECEs deserve. So I am hopeful that the conversations we've had here in Charlottetown will be helpful to Ontario and all ministers that were with us, and that we can continue working together to make sure that ECEs get the respect and the pay that they deserve.
Thank you. We now have a question from Nicole from the Free Press.
Thank you for taking our questions, Minister. In Manitoba, advocates are calling for a public management and delivery of childcare. Is that something the federal government would support?
Thank you for the question. So as we are building together with Manitoba, with all provinces and territories, our aspiration is to be building a predominantly public system. That's been clear from day one. Having said that, of course, Manitoba has jurisdiction over childcare in their province. And I trust that as they abide by, of course, the agreement that they've signed with us, that they are making the best possible decision as they move forward with childcare within the province that serves the families in Manitoba.
Thank you for that. And just one follow-up. The province, Manitoba signed the Canada-Manitoba Canada-wide early child care agreement in 2021. That funding is due to expire in 2026. Would the federal government consider extending that funding so Manitoba can continue building up capacity within the childcare system?
Yeah, we had pretty extensive discussions today about sustainability of the system. As you've rightly noted, our funding agreements with all provinces and territories do expire in 2026. So we've got 2 more years of work ahead of us. But what I'm encouraged by in the discussion today is the enthusiasm to ensure that we continue to make the necessary investments together to continue building this high quality, affordable system for Canadians across the country. I will say that we did put in place legislation, C-35, which enshrines in legislation our commitment as a government and all future Canadian governments to continue to make investments in sustaining and building this national early learning and childcare system. So our Liberal government is very committed, as I shared with my colleagues today, to work with every province and territory to continue building this out, because frankly, Canadian moms and dads deserve this and need it. So we'll continue that work. I will say, and I think it's important to point out, one of the things that keeps me up at night, frankly, is the possibility of P.E.I and the federal Conservatives canceling this program and canceling the investments that our government has made. These are investments that I believe are obviously good social policy, good economic policy, but they are so appreciated and needed by moms and dads across this country. And these are investments that we're making in kids today that will pay off for years to come. And so I think it's important to just note that although we are committed as a federal government, that we do have we do have an alternative, and that is an alternative with Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, who do not believe in a national early learning and childcare system, who do not believe in providing affordable care for parents in this country.
Thank you very much. We don't have another question online. Therefore, this will conclude today's event. Merci tout le monde d'avoir participé avec nous. C'est ce qui conclut l'événement d'aujourd'hui.
Excellent. Merci. Thank you, everyone.